This is a brief explanation of the basics of Paleolithic art in its style and in its form. Might be helpful to point out before we start that we actually do not have much that survives from this time period, especially because when the sea levels rose around 9000 BCE with all the ice melt, they rose about 300 feet. Many of the Paleolithic people were hunter and gatherers, and they are living close by water sources where they can fish and where they can find other forms of sustenance. So in addition to, of course, this being a long time ago, we also lost a lot of those works of art when the ice melted. We will talk about the two major forms that art takes during the Paleolithic period. We'll be talking about the small portable works of sculpture, and we'll also be talking about the cave paintings. The first major characteristic to know about these sculptures is that they're very small and very portable. The example here, the Venus of Willendorf, you're seeing is only around 4 inches tall. This makes sense. These are, again, hunter-gatherers. They're on the move. They don't have cars. They don't have wagons. They really don't have a lot of ways to carry on a lot of objects. So the objects that they do take with them tend to be very small so that they're easy to move. This example of the swimming reindeer is around 8 inches long, so it's also very small and portable. But it shows us another key characteristic of many of the works from this period, and that would be that when we have representation in these sculptures, we usually have more animal forms over human forms. But when we do see human forms, we definitely have more female surviving statuettes than male surviving statuettes. These examples here are of a few different female figurines, many of them known as quote-unquote Venus figurines, not because they really have any sort of connection with the ancient Roman goddess, but because they focus on female fertility. When we look at these examples, we can also see another key characteristic of Paleolithic artworks. Not only are they usually small and portable, but they usually are represented in a very abstract way. And when we say abstract, what we mean is that there are very few details. There, for instance, here are no faces, sometimes not even any feet included. And even though these are abstracted, what's interesting is that we do have an emphasis on the female form. It's distorted to really give a heavy emphasis to the parts of the female body associated with fertility. And most scholars agree that that likely relates to an importance in these hunter-gatherer cultures for female fertility, for bearing offspring, for continuing the society. Another major characteristic of these small portable sculptures is that they are usually utilitarian as well. They have a use. If you are on the move, you can't afford to just take anything with you just because you like the way it looks, but you usually need to restrict yourself to taking things that are really important to you and that have a function. This work of the bison licking its flank is a fragment of a spear thrower that was made from a reindeer antler. So it shows this kind of utilitarian nature to many of the works from this period. It shows the abstraction. It also shows that animals are more common than human representation. So this one shows quite a few characteristics. The other major art form that we'll be talking about from the Paleolithic period would be cave paintings. What's interesting about the cave paintings is that the majority of them focus on abstract patterns. We're looking here at an example from the Brunel chamber, the palm prints, and this is from the caves in Chauvet, France. So there's very often more abstract patterns than figurative representations of animals or humans in these cave murals. When we do have representations that are figural in these cave paintings, we definitely see more animals than humans. Usually these are non-narrative representations, meaning there's not really a story that's shown, but instead these are usually added at different times by different artists with different materials or methods. So not only do these animals not relate to each other in a story, but we also are going to see a lot of variation in the scale of the animals, for instance, how big they are. Their orientation, right, which way they're facing, the ground line, right, where they seem to be standing, and we even see a lot of variations in naturalism too. What we do see, though, from many representations one to another is a common characteristic in the way that these figures are shown, and the term is twisted perspective. You can also call it a composite figure. Essentially, we are seeing both a profile and a frontal element to this representation. So when we see these two different kind of perspectives shown at once on a figure, it's meant to be a way to inform us more about the figure and what the figure looks like. And it's a common way for artists to approach both animals and humans in these earlier eras of art. We can see here with this painting of a bull that it's also very abstracted. We have just kind of an outline here to suggest the animal. So again, that lack of detail and that more basic representation is something that we see throughout the mediums and throughout the subject matters of Paleolithic art. Hopefully this brief little explanation helps you to better understand Paleolithic art.